Carlos, in this module, we're going to talk about the dreaded ICS, right? The Incident Command System. Now, just before we jump into this, for those of you that are in government or in private, um, not every state uses ICS. I know a lot of companies do, many don't, but I think everybody that uses it understands it's a way of organizing people in a crazy scenario. So, Carlos, talk about this for a minute. What is it? Why is it important to you as a utility? I think it'd be a really good lesson, and I think more states are starting to use it, but not all do. I just want to manage expectations in the private sector as we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the incident command system, as I mentioned earlier, Con Edison's, journey on the incident command system started back after the 1993 World Trade Center explosion, and at the time, he wasn't the VP of Emergency Management at the time, but he eventually became that role. But Dick Morgan, my mentor, felt the need that the company had to go into an approach, and he became familiar with his relationship that he had with the fire department. ICS was one of those systems that were used for forest fires and for other major events, and he got the company's senior leadership to buy in and go in this route, and he led a team that kind of put the first ICS structure for Con Edison, and that kind of started the whole process. I mean, he became the VP of Emergency Management later on, and when he retired, it continued on, and it's been evolving. And I would say we it follows NIMS, right? It wasn't called NIMS at the time, the National Incident Management System, but basically it is the same thing. I would say at Con Ed, when I was there, it was not textbook. It was more, I call it utilicized or Con Edicized to make it fit for the company, because, we used the ICS forms. We didn't use all the ICS forms. We definitely follow the planning P. That's a process. That's the heart of the incident command system. Outside of having the structure, as you see on the screen, you have the, either unified command or an incident commander, and then it flows down to the officers. And we had actually more officers than what is shown there, but I'll call those the key officers: the public information officer, we spoke about earlier, the safety officer, which covers safety and environmental at times, maybe separately, and then the liaison officer, which we've been talking to about communications coordination. But then it breaks up into the operations section, planning section, logistics, and finance admin. And all of those operations section chiefs, there's an organization below them, and they decentralize into different functions or into task force, depending on how the situation needs to be addressed. But the planning section is really, like the word says, they do all the planning. So they're the ones charged with putting the incident action plan together that kind of drives what you're going to be doing for the upcoming operational period. So you're going to decide what operational period you want to operate under. It may be 12 hours, maybe 24 hours, or maybe every 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever you deem necessary, but you got to put a plan together. And that the team below that is, you get information of what's the status at the moment, what the plan is moving forward, but they kind of drive that. But they work with the operations section chief, who really is the person in charge of operating that plan during that operational period, providing information back to the planning section to let them know, yep, we're on schedule, we're behind schedule, so they have to adjust the plan based on that. Now, logistic is the support leg, right? They provide the resources that you need to get the mission done, and that's within that group. So logistics handles housing, communications, materials, medical, security, supply chain, vehicles, everything under the sun there. And then finance admin is basically they're counting everything, right? So they're making sure that there's sufficient funds to support the whole restoration effort. They're keeping track of it, because we want to definitely keep track. And in typical utility, you've got to track those separately. So you set up storm accounts to kind of track everything for each event. And because, like I said before, you may have a second event happening, so you may need to track 2 events at the same time. and have different storm count.